Welcome to this River Publishers book discussion. I'm Philippa Jefferies, and I'm with Alden and Tripp Hathaway to talk about their new book, Energy Independence, The Individual Pursuit of Energy Freedom, which presents a plan for how you as a homeowner can achieve energy freedom for your household. So Alden, Tripp, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
I guess, could you please start with a little about yourselves and what the motivation was for writing this book on energy independence?
Sure. Well, most of my career has been influenced by my dad, Alden, and his life's work. So I'm sure he'll have some color to add to that. But he's got decades of personal data from his own, doing this for so many decades, and his home energy data that he wanted to share with the world. So really, it was everything that he had that he wanted to share, and I thought I could help frame it in such a way that anybody could pick up and read and understand and easily emulate. I'll add to that, though. He may talk to this about this too, but we spent some time in Africa, bringing small solar lighting systems to schools, orphanages, churches, and even mud huts, that just homes. And it's amazing in rural Africa what the impact a single light bulb has in a home or a school that didn't have any electricity at all. And it's just a testament to what we take for granted in where we live, and we can't take it for granted. It's important. And part of our book is to help us at the very beginning of it, to help us realize what we have and what we're taking for granted. And then we can solve the problems that we don't even realize that we have because we take it for granted. And that's sort of what this is about for me.
So, and Tripp is modest about it too. Tripp brought to this book a sort of discipline. He's got a career in the military, in which I think he's instilled some discipline and an appreciation for what we do, why freedom is important, why energy independence is important, and he brought that into the book as we wrote it. Yes, it's true that the book is a compilation of experiences that I've gained through my energy career, 40 years now. In fact, this year, since I graduated with an electrical engineering degree from the University of Virginia, and began work for Georgia Power Company. I was raised in a minister's family, clergy family. I learned about scriptural purposes of our lives from our purpose of taking care of the earth from a scriptural point of view, but I also had a grandfather that was heavily in the industrial sales and marketing, so he taught me the business ethic. So the idea is that we develop our energy perspective from a standpoint of what works, what provides a return on investment, what can be put into place without government subsidies or oversight, but is truly something that we can do on our own. And having worked in the energy industry, as I said, starting with Georgia Power, Sylvania Lighting, consulting for the federal government's EPA's Energy Star programs, and even working for a solar company, I saw that it was actually possible to put all these technologies together and create a net zero perspective, a net zero energy home. We built our first home in Virginia in 2000. We actually displayed it on the National Capitol Mall. Tripp was part of that experiment. And then we lived in it for 7 years. And I wrote about it, and mostly articles that I put in trade magazines and so forth. We sold it, moved south, built another one. And by that time, we had perfected everything, so that we knew what worked and what didn't work. And so this book is a compilation of that, what works, what doesn't work, to get us to that energy independence point.
And actually that works quite well, moving on to my next question, which kind of is, what does energy independence or energy freedom really mean to you? We've been using this word a lot, but kind of what really is it?
I'll start with this one, because I think I have sort of a general answer and sort of the spirit of what we're doing. Or what we're talking about. Like you said, energy freedom is sort of a term that's beginning to gain some recognition. And the way we frame it, the American concept of liberty within the context of energy is energy freedom. Granted, anybody in the world that owns a home or a building, that anything that uses energy can solve problems with energy within their own four walls. But there's something especially American in spirit about this book. It sort of awakens the power of the individual to solve our energy and climate problems. We don't need to wait for any sweeping government action to do it for us. Our message is you have the power. So we kind of asked the question: Are you bothered by energy costs? Are you do you like not having any choice in where you get your electricity? Do you wish we weren't beholden to foreign energy producers? You know, you've got the last month and a half, the Ukraine war, and the energy implications of that, and how many countries were dependent partially on oil from Russia. It's a big problem. And then, you know, are you frustrated by government energy policy? Well, do something about it within your own home. We can show you how to do even just the small little bit that you have that you can control. We show you how to do that.
Okay, interesting. It's good to kind of clarify that. And I guess also for people, like you were saying, who are kind of frustrated at the moment with the rate of change to kind of help fight climate change and things, this is something that you can do yourself. You don't have to wait for those policy changes to happen. And yeah, as you were saying, this book is incredibly relevant at the moment, especially as all around the world, energy prices are rising. They're becoming a big problem for homeowners and everybody. So what would be your advice for some things that people can do like right now to help reduce the energy costs in their home?
Well, I would say the first thing that people really need to do is they need to take stock in what they're using. Most likely, they probably have a lot of lights that can be converted over. We say lights to tackle first because they're the fastest ROI. In the book, in fact, we say quite clearly, you start with the fastest or highest return on investment possible, and you use that to build your momentum up and get your whole energy program in your home moving forward. So replace every single light bulb that you use that operates with an LED is the first foremost thing to do. It's the fastest ROI. And I say that be surprising how many people say, well, I'm just going to hang on to my old incandescents until they burn out because shoot, we paid for them. When they burn out, we'll replace them to LEDs. That's the biggest mistake you can make because you don't build your momentum. You will waste more money in the first month that you would have saved with that LED that could have bought 3 more incandescent light bulbs. So it's worth it to go ahead and replace them. I'd also, look at your water heater. It's 10% of your energy bill. Wrap it if you can with an insulating blanket. Put it on a timer. Those things are quick and easy. All of this won't cost you more than $100, and you'll be saving at least that amount in the first quarter of the year. So those are the things I do first.
And Tripp, you agree?
Yeah, there's not much more to add to that. I guess the book is ordered such that we start with the low ROI, the high ROI, low cost impact items first because they really kickstart the savings right away. So for us, it's to kickstart the savings so that we can build up towards the bigger things. But to your question, what can people do now when energy costs are peaking or higher than normal? Well, they can do those really high ROI, low cost impact items that are really going to give them the best bang for their buck and bring their energy costs down.
We want people. I'm sorry. I just want to say that we want people to build this energy savings engine quickly because they're going to use those energy dollars in future months and years to buy the bigger ticket items that will really save money in the long run. But they're harder to make upfront costs on those. That's why we want to build the energy savings engine with the quick ROIs first.
That works quite down to what I was going to ask actually was kind of what are the scale of the things you're recommending in the book? So we're starting with light bulbs, going up to solar panels and things like that?
Absolutely. We'll take you all the way to solar roof, to EV in the garage, to even battery storage. all these things are possible and paid for out of the stream of energy savings that you're going to create when you follow the book's recipe from top order to bottom order. And it all can be done within 6 to 8 years. It'd be surprising, but people think, well, I can't afford that solar PV roof. Well, in 6 to 8 years of doing this, that money is going to be set aside by your whole energy savings plan. You don't have to worry about affording it. You'll have it.
Yeah, your energy savings are paying for it. The energy savings start with the light bulbs. The savings from your LEDs at the very beginning are going to pay for the next upgrade. You're going to pay for the next upgrade and the next one. And before you know it, so long as you're managing those savings and you're setting them aside, the big stuff's paid for. And I think the spirit of this is we're taking you all the way in concept that you are completely independent. Now, we don't advocate for separating from the grid. There's actually a spoiler. I don't want to no spoilers here, but the end of the book talks about kind of what the future holds and some of the amazing things that we can do with the new energy economy. We don't want to disconnect because that kind of disconnects us from that possible future. But we're taking you all the way to complete energy self-sufficiency, energy independence.
Okay. And I guess that works quite nicely onto, again, my next question, which was kind of what is the biggest challenge for people who want to become more energy independent, even when using your book to do so?
Well, I think there's two hurdles, mental hurdles that people have to get over. And just like I said, we're taking you all the way to energy independence. Well, if you look at that right now, the 8 years down the road, or however long it takes, it'll take the average person to go through our plan to energy independence and energy freedom. It seems like a really big issue and almost too big for us to tackle. Well, and also it kind of goes on in tandem with the idea that we're kind of waiting for government to solve these big problems. But we have a meter on our house. We have a gas tank that we fill up. So we have these small incremental pieces of the big energy problems that we can take charge of. We can take charge of these smaller things in our lives instead of waiting for some government solution to solve the big problems. And when everybody takes care of the little things add up to the big things, and the big problems are solved by default. Secondly, we may think, again, looking down the road to 8 years and say, well, gosh, you got an electric vehicle in the garage, you've got a PV system, maybe even energy storage, and you had all the upgrades to before that. We may think, gosh, that's a lot of money. We don't have the financial means to achieve that. You may see your neighbor putting up a $20,000 solar array on their roof and just say, well, they can afford that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But as we've sort of already alluded to, there's a way to leverage the savings, starting with the really easy stuff like the LED upgrade, and maybe wrapping the water heater, working your way up to some energy efficient appliances, and take all those savings, and they really add up over time. So we're not worried about money. The finances that are required to pay for these upgrades, they're going to pay for themselves. All we need is time. We just need time for all of these savings to add up to the next upgrade, and then the next upgrade, and the next upgrade. And it just kind of snowballs into energy freedom.
So I do spend quite a bit of time reading on Facebook and LinkedIn and some of the other mediums. Well, mainly those are the two that I see. And my understanding and responding to kind of a defeatism and misinformation about energy and what we can do to change things. And what I do is I just try to correct that and say, look, there really is a way to do this that makes economic sense. You don't need to worry about the cost of that EV in the showroom that's got a price tag of $90,000 on it, when there are other EVs for sale for under $30,000 and $25,000 that you can procure instead. And when you think about the energy saving opportunities, you really can't look at one item and say, well, that energy savings and that ROI just doesn't make sense to me. You've got to look at the whole picture. That is the amount of money that it takes to get to net zero, and the amount of energy you're saving over time really will provide, integrated together, a much better return on investment than some of the measures that you read about or hear about because of some of the things that are being said on the social media pages. And so what I do is try to, what I find that this book needs to help address is a reference point to say it really is profitable to follow it, but you got to follow it in these steps. If you get out of step with it, if you go out and buy a solar roof now, the ROI may sink the ability to do any of the other measures because you're not getting the return on cash fast enough to pay for them. That's why we put them in order and say follow it in this order.
Okay, great. Yeah, and this is where your book definitely comes in handy, is kind of laying it out and giving it that structure. I'm afraid we're kind of coming to the end of our time, but my final question, which kind of leads on what you were just saying, is what would you like readers to take away from this book, perhaps more generally besides the specific steps?
You have power. Take charge.
Yeah.
In your hands.
Yeah, don't globalize this. Don't get caught in the morass of, oh, it's too big of a problem, and look at what's going on in countries that dependent on hostile countries for its energy. Don't globalize it. Take personal action and make that your testament.
Great. Well, thank you so much to both of you for joining me today. Congratulations on the book, and yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for having us.